In this video are 6 players that will go absolutely nuclear in fantasy football for 2025. Like this video, save the video, subscribe. I don't care what you do. Just make sure you remember this information for draft season. But the number 1 quarterback I saved for the end, quite literally, he will feed families this year, so make sure to stick around for that. But the number 1 guy here, it's going to be Chase Brown. Now, he's going as the RB13. That seems kind of high for what he is, especially considering he came on the scene pretty much out of nowhere last year. But I have him as my RB8. Like, this is still too low. Above guys like Jonathan Taylor, above guys like Bucky Irving, even Derrick Henry, I could get behind Chase Brown over him. The number 1 reason for this is because he survived the NFL draft. And what I mean by this is that the Bengals went out and did not grab any running backs in the draft. The only guy they got was an undrafted free agent after the fact. That shows that this team and us as fantasy managers can trust Chase Brown. Now, there were concerns about him being a workhorse RB1 type player last year in the beginning of the year. I know you guys remember that. If you watched any of my videos, I was extremely sold on Chase Brown being this Bengals RB1 over Zach Moss. Now, if you would have told me that he would have been who he is, finishing as almost a top 10 running back, I wouldn't have believed you. But I was always on the train that he's better than Zach Moss, and he is that guy. Now, this again shows that we don't need to worry. Last season, he finished as a top 15 running back despite being the RB47 in touchdown rate. So there is a ton of positive regression growth that we can see and expect from him. And if we isolate his statistics from week 9 on, when he became the starter for the Bengals until week 17 when he got injured, he was the overall RB5 with 151 carries, RB2 in targets, and the RB3 in fantasy points per game in that isolated stretch of games, which we can honestly expect for the 2025 season. Those statistics alone are better than guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane from last year. The numbers are not lying, and possibly the best part about all of this is if you are in a PPR league, the Bengals defense is still relatively lackluster, and the pass volume will continue to be great. They were number 1 in that in the NFL last year. I don't expect why that should change. Chase Brown would have been the overall RB1 in fantasy football in targets if he started the entire season. But if you're somebody that does love to stack in fantasy football, I will give you a 2-for-1 in this part of the video. 2 guys you should be targeting. Make sure to leave your draft with one of Drake Maye or Stefon Diggs. Now, before you click off this video, and I understand the hate here because the Patriots are not a great franchise as of right now, look at their draft value. Drake Maye is going as the quarterback 19 in round 10. That pretty much is free. I like that. Then we have Stefon Diggs as the wide receiver 46 in round 9. In what world are you finding a clear-cut wide receiver 1 with 0 target competition, mind you, that low in drafts? It's not possible. Even if the Patriots were the worst team in the NFL and finished with 0 wins, Stefon Diggs is still as close as you can get to guaranteed to beat that wide receiver 46 value as a slot wide receiver. That it's easy. There's a 100% chance that he leads this team in targets. Hunter Henry was the leader in that last year. No wide receivers. Again, competition were able to do that. As bad as that wide receiver core was, they upgraded it with Stefon Diggs. They brought in a few rookies. For the record, the Patriots, at least as of recent, cannot draft successful wide receivers. I mean, Jalen Polk, I'm not even going to get into that. I don't have high hopes that these rookies are going to outperform Stefon Diggs and make him a bad value in fantasy. And that is going to help Drake Maye as well a ton, especially when you account for the offensive line upgrades they made in the offseason in the draft. But the number 1 reason why Drake Maye is a guy that we actually do need to be targeting is because he averaged over 17 fantasy points a game when he was healthy. And most importantly, he was the quarterback 5 in rush yards. He's locked in with that to give you at least 3 to 4 fantasy points a game on top of whatever touchdown upside he does have for the rushing ability. That's pretty good. If you stack those 2 players statistically, you have an increased boom chance per week by 3%. Now, how often are the Patriots offense going to boom? That's another question. One of those guys, though, is going to help you absolutely crush your league. And Calvin Ridley is another guy I really do love. Historically, wide receivers working with rookie quarterbacks don't usually perform a ton better than their ADPs. An opposite example of that is last year with Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels finishing as the wide receiver 16. But there are 2 things here that match perfectly between the rookie Cam Ward and the veteran that is Calvin Ridley that makes him a very good value that is, in my opinion, going to destroy ADP. Number 1, Ward throws a ton of downfield balls. That's what he is really good at. Ridley was the wide receiver 5 in fantasy points on passes over 15 yards down the field. And that number was a lot better when there was no Will Levis. Now there is no Will Levis. If we go into those numbers, Will Levis was averaging 25.6 passing attempts a game. He was the quarterback 40 in passer rating. It quite literally could not have gotten any worse than Will Levis at the starting quarterback. And regardless of who the Titans put out last year, it was not great. Cam Ward, as long as he is decent, he doesn't even have to be good. This offense is already going to get a step up. Last year, Calvin Ridley in games without Will Levis averaged 14.8 fantasy points per game. That's good for the wide receiver 22. any bit better that Ward can get is going to be a positive. And Ward extends plays a lot through scrambles. You look at Calvin Ridley, he was the wide receiver 9 in fantasy points on out of the pocket throws. Again, that works well. Ward isn't much of a rushing quarterback, which is good because he likes to scramble out of the pocket. He just doesn't turn it into rushing attempts. He likes to scramble, extend plays, and keep going, kind of like a Patrick Mahomes or maybe a Caleb Williams would. He had a 5% scramble rate in college. That's NFL average. And that's good for Calvin Ridley because it'll allow the routes to open up downfield and develop. Ridley averaged 15 fantasy points per game, again, when Will Levis was not starting at quarterback. It was always a Levis problem. I was very public about that last season as well. And the Titans defense ranked 30th last year and did not get a ton better. They were a complete run funnel of a defense as well, which means the pass attempts are probably going to have to go up to keep these guys in games. Calvin Ridley is going as the wide receiver 35. He was the wide receiver 40 earlier in the year. He's slightly coming up in ADP, which is completely understandable. At that price, there is absolutely nobody I would take over him. He is the wide receiver 1. Van Jefferson is really the only target competition he has on that team. They just cut Treylon Burks. He should get all of the usage, and the schedule isn't insanely tough. He's not facing a bunch of really, really good corners this year like other guys are, like Garrett Wilson, like Malik Neighbors. They're facing a lot of shadow corner coverages. If you guys do want a full video on that and who might be at a higher percent chance of not performing in fantasy because of that, let me know in the comments and I will write up that entire video for you. But the final player here you've been waiting for, if you skip to this part of the video, I do not blame you. This quarterback will decimate his ADP, and that is going to be Bryce Young. So let's start with context. Number 1, he finished as a quarterback 20 last year after being benched for 5 games. That was not pretty. He started the beginning of the year absolutely atrocious. Then he completely did a 180. From week 8 on to the end of the season, he was the quarterback 12, averaging 18.6 fantasy points per game, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is not bad by any means, but it gets better because he finished as the quarterback 2 in the last 3 weeks of the NFL season. Now, we do have to be realistic. You can't isolate the last 2-3 weeks of the season and say he's the best quarterback of all time. And the offense is still lackluster. We have to be honest, as far as star power goes, it's still one of the worst in the league. But he did go through and upgrade with Ted McMillan in the draft. Again, the offensive line is decent. It's not great. And another year under Dave Canales as the head coach, the offense should improve just that much. And if he was able to finish as a quarterback 12 when he was healthy, the quarterback 24 draft value that he's at right now, going in round 12, should be the absolute floor for Bryce Young. The risk to reward ratio is absolutely there because there really is no risk that low in drafts. He has rushing upside, but that is going to finish this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. All glory to the man above, and I will see you in the next one coming soon.